All right, well, it is now 5 minutes after, so let's just go ahead and get started with what I've got planned here for today. Um,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna share my screen, obviously, with you. You see what's there. One of the first things that I want to mention is the date change. As you guys already are aware, it's now next summer, obviously, in 2022, but also July 24th through the 28th, if you haven't looked closely at your calendars, that is a Sunday through a Thursday. So completely different schedule as far as what days we are there. The reasoning for that is when they had to postpone from this summer, 2021 to 2022, they were limited on dates where all of the different venues were available next summer. And that was the time, one of the few times that the city could host us in our entirety. So it will be a Sunday through a Thursday. So just keep that in mind when you're planning things. So hopefully you're from a congregation in Kansas or Missouri, which you guys are. Thank you. I'm Mindy Tilburg, your Gathering Synod Coordinator for this cycle. Well, you guys have both been. These were supposed to be questions if we had met in person last year, but both of you have been to the gathering. Either one of you want to share how many times you've been to the gathering? Anybody?
I think two. Went as a parent sponsor when it was down in Texas at
San Antonio.
yes,
San Antonio.
and then Houston as taking a group.
Right.
So
Awesome.
how about you, Steve?
I went as a youth once, and then I went as an adult leader, I think 5 times.
Oh wow.
So this
Ooh,
I think
give
this will
that
be my
man a
second.
trophy.
I bet Mindy has me beat.
We won't discuss that, but perhaps maybe so. Just a reminder that when we're talking about leaders, adult leaders, that your congregation might have a couple of adult leaders, but you will need to have one primary adult leader. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about registration stuff. So let's move forward here. Our agenda for this meeting is just some basic information about the gathering. Then we'll talk about registration. There's some dramatic changes in registration this cycle. We'll talk about how you can get ready before the gathering. And perhaps probably what I believe to be the most important topic is choosing adult leaders. And then I'll share some resources with you. Have you guys seen the promotional video for the gathering? This is a good video to share with your congregations as you're building up an interest.
God's presence was so massive. I thought that the roof was going to blow off the building.
It's the love of God that will remain when all things pass away.
You really get to get involved and you learn about the culture of the city that you're coming into.
You matter. You are loved. And there is no limit to God's grace.
If our joy is only for us, then it is not God's joy. God's joy is for everyone.
God was there through prayer from my church and friends. God was everywhere.
Are you ready to live for this?
for the 2020 gathering is boundless, God beyond measure. It's based on Ephesians 3, 14 through 21, specifically the CEV version of that. So if you pick up one of your NRSV Bibles, just know that it's not going to be the same. It's quite a bit different. So make sure that that's what you are using, the CEV version. And there's information on the website that explains more about the theme. Again, I would encourage you to share that with your groups, with your students, with your families. The idea that we are bound. We're bound by our sin, by the expectations of others, by poverty, by all the isms that try to divide us. But the gathering wants the young people to imagine the boundlessness of God. What are the stories of God's people, both in scripture and in modern day, that share the awe and the wonder of just how vast our God really is? And what does it mean and what does it look like and feel like to live a life that is filled with all that God is? So the mission of the gathering is based around 5 different areas of faith formation in teens. And that's 1, helping teens in their faith formation through worship, through interactive learning, through Bible study, through service, and also fellowship. The goals of the gathering are that young people are affirmed and challenged in their faith, that they experience new perspectives, that they have the opportunity to ponder their vocation, bond with their congregational group, and of course, learn more about the ELCA. So who can go? Youth who are in 8th through 12th grade at the time of registration this fall are able to attend. Adult leaders must be at least 21 years old at the time of the gathering. And the recommended ratio for adult leaders is 1 adult for every 7 youth. That's what the gathering recommends. First, I want to talk about some special gatherings that are going to occur before the gathering. One of those is MILE, the Multicultural Leadership Event. That will be July 21st through the 24th. This is for youth of color or those whose first language is not English. It'll be held at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul. The cost for that is $190 per person, and that covers almost everything. It covers the housing, program expenses, and most of the food expenses. When you register for the gathering itself, you will be able to register for MILE at that same time. The cost of MILE will then be added to your congregational balance, which is due June 22nd next year. There's also the table that occurs prior to the gathering. Same time as MILE, July 21st to the 24th. This is for young people that live with disabilities and a caregiver who can attend with them. It will be held at the Marriott down in Bloomington in Minnesota. Again, the cost is $190 per person, which covers housing, program expenses, and most of the food expenses. Caregivers must pay the registration fee, but their registrations will be waived for the gathering itself. Registration for the table is also part of registration for the gathering. So you do that at the same time. And again, the cost of the table will be added to your congregational balance as well. I have already had some questions about what is the age range for young people that attend the table. And I can give you contact information of the person who is leading the table. It's more based on I would say cognitive abilities. There have been young people who are like 20 or 21 that have attended the table based on their cognitive abilities. So they don't set an age restriction for that. But I can definitely get you into contact with the leader of the table if you need to find out more information about that. So jumping right in to about financial assistance, and this is for the whole gathering. We're not talking table or mile. We're kind of done talking about those. Financial assistance for this cycle for 2022. Our synod is one of 6 synods that's piloting a new approach to financial assistance. Do not apply for financial assistance through the Gathering website. They will just tell you and give you the link to our synod application process. So what this new approach is that the Gathering is trying to be better stewards of financial assistance, and they've given the 6 synods who are piloting this program, they are giving us money, and then we distribute that. So just to show you here, the application process is open. If you go to our synod website, css-elca.org/youth gathering, Tim Anderson has been gracious enough to set up a page for us. That's what I'm, hopefully, can you see it? Did that link work? Can you guys see that? No? Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's not working. I put a link in there hoping it was going to work. But that application is there. Only students are eligible to apply for it, but an adult leader must apply for the student. So the adult leader must go online and fill out the application themselves. Of course, there's an option to ask for partial or all of the registration fees. So the largest amount that may be given to a student would be the full cost of registration, but you have that opportunity on the application form to designate that. Like I said, applications are open now, and they will close October 2nd. The synod will send the congregation a check for financial assistance. So that's how that process will work. I'm going to assume that the links I tried to put in this PowerPoint are not going to work, so I'm not even going to click on them. I was hoping to show you these. Maybe when we get done, we'll jump over to the Youth Gathering website. But registration, of course, all participants register as a congregational group with one adult serving as that primary leader. The primary leaders, which I've mentioned before, are the organizer of the group. They're the one who receives communications from the Gathering office about housing and about payments for the Gathering itself. Each congregation will register using their unique 5-digit congregational ID. If you're a pastor, you probably know what I'm talking about. If not, talk to your pastor or check with your office staff in your congregation to figure out what your congregational ID number is. There will be a registration webinar on August 19th. I highly encourage you to check that out if you're able. The webinars that they are hosting this cycle are very brief, 30-minute webinars, just giving some really basic, straightforward information. The reason why I would encourage you to participate in the registration webinar is because it will be different this cycle. So you're thinking, what do you mean, Mindy, when you say it's going to be different? Well, first of all, payment is online only this year. They've not done that before. This is the first time that they have ever done this. So prepare yourself. That means you either need to pay with a credit card or an electronic check. Electronic checks often have a processing fee when you pay things online. So I would say personally that ideally you would pay with a credit card. So just be aware of that when you go online to register, that you're going to have to pay online. No more sending checks to a St. Louis or wherever address. It's online only. That's the real big change for this cycle. for registration. You, of course, will have to pay a $150 non-refundable deposit per person. That's due when you register. And it must be paid within the rate range you expect to pay. So for example, if you register during regular registration, or let's say early bird, if you want to get the early bird price, your deposit must be paid before November 21st. Otherwise, you will get bumped down to the regular registration rate. So basically, when you register, determines how much you will pay, of course, whether it's early bird, regular, or late registration. You can't go online November 19th and enter all your information and then go back in December and pay it. When you pay determines what registration rate you are paying. So just to be clear about that, because some people will say, oh, well, I entered all my information back in September. Did you pay in September? No, I paid in December. Well, December means you get the regular rate. So just to clarify that. All housing and registration balances are due June 22nd. So that's a big date to keep in the back of your head, is June 22nd for all balances that are due. Next, we'll move on to transportation. And this cycle, Stephen kind of mentioned this before we got started. Everyone is highly encouraged to select gathering transportation when you register. You will have the opportunity to change your selections until April 22nd, but the Twin Cities can be challenging to navigate without 35,000 other people there. So I would highly suggest that you use the gathering transportation. It's also a logistical issue for the gathering as well, just in terms of where people are. You know, how you're getting where you're getting to and where you are, and streamlining the process. It can be challenging, I know. We've all waited for buses. We've all, you know, had delays for various reasons. But that's also part of the experience as well for our groups and for our youth. I would encourage you to connect with other congregations in your area to share transportation, especially if you're wanting to charter a bus, or I don't know that anyone in our area would try to fly. It's relatively close for our synod, but I have found that working together with other local congregations just makes it a better experience for our youth. They get to meet more new people. So housing for the gathering. The gathering, of course, is contracting with a variety of hotels, and of course, they're very excited to see us next summer. The majority of attendees of the gathering will be in downtown Minneapolis or in Bloomington. That will be, those two areas will cover almost 70% of the youth gathering participants. So downtown Minneapolis or Bloomington. Other areas, of course, will be in St. Paul and in St. Louis Park. But those are the four major pods, if you will, of where these hotels are located. Hotel rates will vary, but congregations are encouraged to budget $159 plus the 11% tax per room per night. And note that ELCA congregations are not exempt from hotel taxes in the state of Minnesota. So room types will be, you'll be able to, there's kings, there's doubles, there's double doubles, there's suites, there's lots of different configurations of rooms. But for budgeting purposes, you can expect that your room block assignment will have rooms that can accommodate an average of 3 people. When I actually budget for my group, I budget 2 people per room. And the reason why I do that personally, I've done that a number of cycles, because we have had king rooms instead of quad, well, I'm going to call them quad rooms, double doubles. And that can increase your expenses greatly if you're not prepared for that. So I always budget like worst case scenario. We're only going to have 2 people in a room. It's just going to be a king room with 1 bed. But that's kind of up to your congregation how you want to do that. But that's what I do, and then if we have money left over at the end, we do something special. We go out for a nicer meal or something. But I'd rather ask for it up front than come back to my parents and adults and say, oh my gosh, we only got king rooms, we need more money. So that's just a suggestion from me. Moving on to programming.
Hey, Mindy.
Yeah.
I wasn't the primary leader the past couple times, so I don't remember. So what happens at registration? Do we tell them how many of each gender, of youth and adults, and then they assign how many rooms?
No. So the other thing that'll be different this cycle, which is why I'm encouraging you to go to that registration webinar next month in August, because I don't even have the full details yet. When you register, you will also take note of what you want your rooms to be. Now, you may not get that, but yeah, that's new. They've not done this before. Housing was completely separate from registration. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like. We just know that it's different this cycle. So that's why I'm really, really, really encouraging you to participate in that registration webinar in August, because that is different. Before they were separated, they are not this cycle. They are not for Minneapolis. So keep that in the back of your head. So jumping to programming, and I'm going really fast through some of this, I feel like, but please know that next spring, late winter, early spring, I will be hosting other Zoom meetings like this to go into detail about programming for the gathering, because there's so much that we still don't know yet. But like in previous gatherings, there's a 3-day cycle. So life at the gathering kind of revolves around 4 different areas. Obviously, mass gatherings that will happen at the US Bank Stadium every evening. Of course, there will be an interaction learning day, or an interactive learning day that will be in the convention center. Service learning will be with Twin City Partners, and of course Synod Day with our local congregation. So you'll still have that 3-day rotation that you're used to if you've been to a gathering before.
Mindy,
well,
Mindy,
yeah.
a question.
Yeah.
So because it's starting on Sunday,
Mhm.
is it starting morning or evening, or is there worship? Is that going to be worship day first, that kind of thing, rather than last? Or
It will be just like it has in previous cycles, where there will be a mass gathering that first night. That's the first big event, will be the mass gathering at US Bank
well,
Stadium.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing that I can't remember if it's further along in my PowerPoint, but there are some differences. Let me look and see if I hit on this again a little bit later here. Don't think I do. No, I don't think I put it in here. No, not in this one. There are some differences with the service learning day. And when I get done with my PowerPoint, I think I am going to take you to the Gathering website to show you some of these things. There will be an option on Service Learning Day for smaller congregations to do something different on Service Learning Day, which is basically partner with smaller organizations. Like I'm thinking in terms of, like, we have a foundation here in Salina that deals with childhood cancer, and they could use volunteers, but 10 volunteers might be too many for them. So there will be an option for smaller congregations to perhaps participate in that. And I will show you more about that when we get to the gathering website. But I just wanted to note that here, that there is something a little bit different for that service learning day. Of course, the question about COVID, if you haven't been to the gathering website, there's a whole page on COVID-19, and a lot of questions are answered about that. The big one that I've already received so far is that will participants have to be vaccinated? The answer is no. No. We certainly would hope that people would think about the safety of themselves and others, but that's not something that the gathering can mandate. But be sure you check out that page if you have questions in regards to COVID. So when we're talking about finances, because that always is the hard part, like for congregations, right? Like, how much is this going to cost? Not what effect or what impact will this have on our youth, but how much is it going to cost us? So when you're talking about finances, you need to lead that planning with a vision that shares the idea that we're investing in our youth's faith formation with such a fabulous once-in-a-lifetime event that will hopefully really push them both personally and as a group to think about what it means to be a Christian, living our daily lives. So I know it's hard. I mean, money's always hard to talk about in churches, right? But it's an investment. It's an investment in the future of our church. So what does it cost? Things to consider. I highly encourage you to budget. You'd be surprised the number of congregations that don't really create a budget for the gathering. You need to make sure that you include, of course, the gathering registration fees, transportation fees, food, housing, hotels, and any activities or any other extra things that need to be done. The gathering does have, I'm going to see if I can hold it up here in my picture. They do have a handbook that I would really encourage you to print off. I have a bound copy that I got through Old Lutheran. You can print this off for free on the resource page of the gathering. Has wonderful ideas about preparing for the gathering and really good information for adult leaders. I highly encourage that. But it also has some ideas about different ideas for fundraising in here. So get yourself a copy of this, print this off, whatever. I also have a budget that I use. If anybody is interested, you could just shoot me an email and I can send you that. I already have it for this next gathering. It's already ready. I've shared it with my families. But I will warn you, on my budget, I always budget expenses higher than necessary because, again, I did it once and I won't do it again. And that was have to go back to my parents a month before the trip and ask for more money. I won't do that anymore. That's difficult to do. That's kind of a newbie mistake. So I always budget high. And if we have money left over at the end, the kids get money back for food or for souvenirs or whatever they may want. So I think one of the biggest things to talk about today is adult leaders, how you choose and prepare adult leaders. And I will say this every single time. Adult leaders make or break this experience for youth. kids like intuitively know whether their adult leaders are invested in them and the experiences they have at the gathering. So it's very important that you choose your adult leaders carefully. I know for some congregations that can be a struggle because you don't have people that want to serve in that way. But you really have to be selective about who you send, not just another warm body. You really need to look for adult leaders who are going to be there for the youth. Again, there are tips about that in the Gathering Handbook. Adult leaders are not chaperones. They're not the ones who stand along the wall and watch what the kids are doing. The adult leaders for the gathering are actively engaged and they're participating right along with the youth. An effective adult leader will be well prepared with positive, caring, non-anxious, unselfish attitudes. So I always describe this in terms of you plan some more, and then you wait for that to blow up and not go as planned. And then you just kind of roll with what's going to happen or what's happening, and to be non-anxious about that. Again, if the adult leaders are upset or angry, the kids pick up on that and absorb that energy, and it becomes their energy as well. An effective adult leader will also help youth to be engaged by creating a group culture where each person helps each other be the best that they can be. An adult leader will lead unselfishly, sometimes helping their group act with grace to let another group get better seats or cut in line in front of you for food or whatever. Then the group can gracefully respond to all they encounter, especially in the moments that things don't go well. This empowers everybody. If I could shout this from a rooftop, I would. Adult leaders make or break this trip for the kids. So are you ready? The gathering is about faith formation in teens and groups who prepare to have an open mind and heart will benefit greatly from all the experience of the gathering. The groups who have the best gathering experiences are the ones who are well prepared, and their adult leaders are extremely well prepared. Again, I listed on there just the official Gathering Handbook as a resource. Be sure to download that. So before the gathering, we're going to walk through some things here as far as a very general timeline. Before the gathering, you just need to keep checking the website for updates or social media. 9 times out of 10 questions that I get as Synod coordinators, the answers can be found on the website. So if you have a question, my first response will be, have you looked on the website? Have you found it there? Because that's where most of the answers are. If you want up-to-date information as the gathering is closer to us, social media, that's where they post things on social media. Things have changed so much over the years with the gathering, but now with social media, they can get information out much quicker than before. So I would encourage you to follow all those social media pages for the gathering as well. Of course, use the Getting Ready materials. If you weren't aware, the Getting Ready materials came out last month, I think it was. They're available on the website. I've already got mine printed off, put it in a binder, so we are all ready to go with our Getting Ready materials when we start gathering in preparation. Sign up for the G-News if you haven't already. You can do that on the website. Parents can sign up, adults can sign up. It keeps everybody informed of things that are going on. And also prepare yourself and your group for an intentional gathering experience. It is evident when congregations after the gathering come to me with concerns or problems that they had. Almost all of those problems could have been solved if the group had been better prepared before they left their homes. So work before the gathering is so important for the gathering itself. Preparing your group, have your group set goals for the gathering experience that help them be aware of others' needs and not just their own. Their hearts and minds will be open to new experiences and a deeper understanding in their faith in their life. Of course, use the getting ready materials. They include group bonding activities at each meeting. That way the kids get to know each other. There's also a page in the gathering handbook as well about preparing your mindset for the gathering. I threw this one in here because I think I often talk to some pastors who don't know how to promote the gathering to begin with. How do they get the information out? And here's what it boils down to. One-on-one. A lot of it is one-on-one. It's personally calling youth or their families, texting them, email. Kids don't use email super a lot anymore. Have information to share with them, send them a text message with the video, the link to the video for the gathering, the promo video. It's really just one-on-one. I mean, we like to think, and people like to talk about, oh, kids, they're so attached to their devices nowadays, which is true. But you know what? They appreciate personal connections, in-person connections as well. Don't we all? So, I just met with a couple of my youth the other day, and we talked about the gathering, and one of them's not so crazy about going. The other one thinks maybe she might. But having that conversation with them is so vitally important. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. Of course, get them to follow the gathering social media and the blog that the gathering has too are all great ways to promote the gathering. If you have questions, you can contact me. My information is right there. I know a lot of you have my email already. Please, if you're asking me questions about the gathering in particular, if you could use this email. It's CSS, Central States Synod, ELCA, and then YG for Youth Gathering. CSS, ELCA, YG@gmail.com. Any correspondence that I send to you will be from that email. That it just helps me stay a little bit more organized with my correspondence and returning your questions as quickly as possible. Of course, there's all the other social media links too. What I want to do now, let's see if this will work for me. So here is the gathering website. This is where all the information is, folks. If you scroll down to the bottom, there are, first of all, I would highly encourage you to sign up for the G News. You can also, I think you can sign up for getting blog notifications as well. Of course, there's information about MILE, the Multicultural Youth Leadership Event, and there's also information about the table as well. I'm going to want to walk through this a little bit with you so you know where to find these things. I had mentioned about COVID-19. That is in the drop down from the About column, I guess. other things here. There will be a kickoff celebration. I think it's on the 26th or 25th. So in 2 Sundays from now, they're going to do some type of celebration kickoff live on social media. So just watch out for that information coming up in the next week and a half or so for that celebration kickoff. Key dates, it's always important to keep in mind as we approach things. So if you have anybody that's applying to be a gathering volunteer, that application process closes next Thursday, a week from today. Ignore July 22nd here for financial assistance. Financial assistance through our Synod is already open on our Synod website. I showed you that earlier. So key dates that you can just scroll through here and find out what's going on. Let's see. Oh, here's the webinars. Yeah. So here is your opportunity to register for those webinars. It's right on, again, on the website, the About tab, scroll down to webinars. It has the list of all the webinars that they're going to be doing, and you can register for them. Today, I think it might have already happened. There was one about Mile. Here's the registration one that I highly encourage you to participate in next month. But that's where you can register for those webinars. A little bit of information about Minneapolis. The offering page doesn't have much up yet other than just giving to the gathering itself. Later, you will have more information on the website about like our other in-kind donations, and then the organizations where Sunday or the closing worship offering will go. Let's see, under programming, which one I was gonna hit? Oh, it was the service learning. So there's our interactive learning day, service learning day, Synod day. Service learning was the one I wanted to hit on here real quick because it says most of this information here where it says new, the ELCA gathering will pilot an expanded approach to service learning by experimenting with smaller sites that have fewer gathering participants. So if your group size is 20 or less, and you can provide your own transportation, and your primary adult leader is available to participate in an online training in late spring of 22, you might want to think about this as an option for your small group. So that service learning approach will make meaningful connections with non-for-profits. And let's see what else here. Your congregation, if you are, so when you register, if this is an option, if your group is smaller than 20 and you are willing to provide your own transportation to your service learning site, and those other things, you will be able to check this on your registration. That does not necessarily mean that you will be chosen for this different pilot approach to service learning, but it just lets them know that you are willing to do that. Then the gathering will provide some of these things. They will even give congregations a balance of $5 per participant. You will not get a servant companion for those projects, and lunch will not be provided to those sites because lunch is typically taken to the large chartered buses and given out on those buses. So there are things that are different, but if that's something that your group might be interested in, be sure to check that when you register. That's just something new for smaller groups. Let's see. Some of this other information I think is pretty pretty self-explanatory. You can look on your own, but I always think it's helpful to show groups that here's where the information is. Programming has information about, not a lot up about safety and security yet, not a lot up about housing. Again, we're still pretty early out. Here's what the schedule will look like at the gathering. So I know Janice had asked about what Sunday will look like. The big event will be the mass gathering on Sunday evening. And then the 3-day rotation will be very similar to what we've seen before. Let's see. Congregational registration, of course, is not open yet, but this is where you will go under congregational registration to register. I also wanted to show you, yeah, so ignore the financial assistance here. That's not where Central State Synod will apply. Resources. So when I was referencing some of those resources before, this is what I was talking about. First of all, on the promotional stuff, it's just where you can download all sorts of promotional stuff, not just the logos, but I think they have letterhead. Yeah, they have like a flyer, letterhead, all sorts of different things that you can use to help promote. They even have a Zoom background for you to use if you're meeting digitally with people. General is where you will find the gathering handbook right here. This is what I've been talking about. That's a great resource for people, the gathering handbook. They also have, I mean, just a budget template, all sorts of stuff here, but I highly recommend downloading the gathering handbook. If you have not signed up for GNews yet, you can go back and look at old, some of the older ones, the older GNews that they sent out. Of course, there's videos that you can use to help promote. The Getting Ready materials, which they just posted about a month ago. I printed off the full document, but if you just want to print off each unit at a time, you can. They even have playlists, Spotify playlists for them. So lots of stuff for the Getting Ready materials. But yeah, be sure to just check out the Gathering website, because that's where so much of the information is right now. Are there any questions? We're a small but mighty group, all 4 of us that are here today.
How many youth gatherings has Lee gone to?
Unmute, unmute.
Just one.
Just one?
Just one last one. I've only been to one. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So, any other questions? Anybody? Anybody?
So what do we tell our congregation when they're concerned?
Explain to me again a little bit more about their concerns.
I think the current concern would be safety.
Oh.
We have multiple people hearing from multiple different sources, and people who are supposedly know different things. They're just with the way things are. I mean, nowhere is 100% safe, but they seem to have extra concerns just because of Minneapolis.
Well, and I think that the gathering, I have heard concerns in regards to there are some congregations that have been, well, I don't know if it's necessarily congregations, but groups, individual students who have been concerned about going to Minneapolis after George Floyd's death. I mean, let's name it for what it is. So the gathering is, my understanding was they were in the process of creating some resources for congregations to use to talk about and discuss some of those issues. Of course, the gathering is not, I mean, this happens every cycle. the concern about safety, because there's always something. You know, when it was in New Orleans, well, it was the safety of our kids in, you know, New Orleans, where it's just a party town, right? I can remember when it was in Atlanta, and the concern, sadly enough, was that we would not be the dominant group in Atlanta. You know, and then in Detroit, oh my gosh, it's Detroit, like Detroit's hardcore. I mean, every gathering city we've gone to, there have been concerns about that. And you know what? Parents have every right to be concerned for the safety of their kids, but they also need to know that the gathering is not going to be hosted in a city where the church does not feel like we cannot keep our own people safe, our own, you know, youth and adults safe. So, the safety and security team works very closely with, you know, all the authorities in providing a safe environment for us. And, you know, when the time comes closer to the gathering, they'll let us know, like, here might be some areas you might not want to hang out in after 8 o'clock at night or whatever. The areas that typically we're in are not those types of areas where we need to really be concerned for our safety. The gathering is not going to do that. So, but also, you know, our kids could be not safe in their own hometowns too. But that's hard to hear because people think that their hometowns are safer than anywhere else. So, that is a tough one though, Stephen. I mean, that is a tough one. I've heard it from one of my parents already, is like, you know, well, people are just crazy up there, you know, all the rioting after George Floyd's death. And so, but that also opens up conversations of a much different topic too, as well. That I think kids are really interested in having, to be honest with you, at least in my experience. You know, kids from central Kansas who don't understand some of those things that have happened recently. So, but yeah, I don't know if that's an answer for you.
That's helpful. No, yeah, definitely.
So,
You know, just if I can add one thing, before we went to Houston, I know I had parents and I had them talk about what hopes they had for their kids.
mhm,
And so one of the moms had said how much she really wanted her son to get out and see a view beyond Kansas. You know, they hadn't traveled much. And sometimes that what they say and what they desire are two different things.
mhm,
You know, and it was really hard for her. She was very concerned about what we were teaching, and some of the speakers, I had feedback that some of the speakers, and that was especially around transgendered kids, and they were concerned about that. And I get the family concerns, I get the parental concerns, but I think what we're also trying to do is talk to kids about the real stuff in real life,
Right.
and help them hear, you know, Christian loving perspectives. And sometimes we see stuff and, you know, experience stuff that is hard for parents to sometimes want their babies to know about. And,
Right.
you know, that's part of that challenge. But if we all want the kids to grow up with having an understanding, because they're going to be out in the world in just a few years. I mean, those kids that we took 3 years ago now are graduating from high school and, you know, are being out there in colleges. So anyway, if that adds anything, Stephen, just a thought.
That did, thank you for making that comment. I'm going to kind of veer off just slightly because what you said though did remind me of something that I have done with my own groups that has seemed to work well. And that is when after we register, like after my kids have been registered and they're signed on, they're going to go. We have a meeting very early in the fall. And I have what I call a pre-gathering covenant that my kids sign, which they create themselves. The best creators of group covenants for youth are the youth themselves. But we create a covenant where I have a basic outline where we talk about expectations before we leave for the gathering. So basically the covenant covers the time from registration until we get on the bus to go. And that outlines like expectations, like do they have to, you know, how much do they have to participate in fundraisers? How much do they have to participate in getting ready? What the consequences are if they don't participate in ways that is expected by the whole group. And that's worked really well because it makes the kids, first of all, determine what they think is an appropriate amount of engagement before we leave. But also they get to choose like what the consequences are as well. You know, maybe that person has to wash the dishes on Easter Sunday morning, you know, from our breakfast, or, you know, whatever. The kids are always much more creative than I would ever come up with. But that's been really helpful for my group. And then before we leave, so as also as a part of that is we do the same sort of thing that Janice talked about I have the kids also talk about like what they want to see happen for themselves. Like, you know, how do they want to grow over this next year as a group? And we term it mostly initially for our pre-gathering covenant around how we want to grow together as a group. What do I expect of myself? What do I expect of others? What do I expect of the whole group? Because I don't know about you guys, but I have 5 youth that will hopefully go, small group, and they go to 5 different schools. 5 different high schools. So it's challenging to you know, sometimes come together and to blend with that group. So we do that. And then right before we leave for the gathering, we create another covenant that's specific to traveling and being a part of the gathering. And at that point, I also really engage my parents, because I want the parents to, I actually have them write out. I mean, there's a form that I provide them where I ask them questions about what their vision is for their child or their student at the gathering. How do they want, what expectations do they have, and what sort of faith formation changes perhaps that they would like to see in their youth. And then I ask the kids to do the same for themselves. And it's interesting to see like what the parents will put and what the kids will put. And I share the information with the youth. We've typically done that. Sometimes it's been on the bus, sometimes it's like right before we leave too. So the kids are also aware that their parents are invested in this as well. So I found those things to be very helpful with my group. And it does, I think it really helps in preparing the group. The more time we spend before we leave, the better time we'll have at the gathering. You know, the more we prepare them, the better the experience will be. And I'm always disheartened after the gathering when I hear negative comments from congregations or whatever, and they're congregations that haven't done the getting ready material, don't even know what the gathering handbook is. You know, it's like, oh, if you just would have spent a little bit more time being prepared, you'd have a much better experience. So just some suggestions, not easy answers, but just some suggestions as you prepare for your group. So are there any more questions or suggestions or ideas? I feel like we got a good group of people here who've had some experience that might want to share some of the things that you've done or that you thought have worked well as well. Make
I mean,
sure
all the money that goes into it, you know, it's not just a 5-day event. It's I mean, utilize it for the whole year, 2 years. I mean, preparing and then reflecting. It's more than just those 5 days. And I think, and I'm guilty of that too. It's sometimes just been that trip.
Right.
But it's more of an experience, like Mindy was just saying.
Yeah. Well, if there are no other questions, Lee, did you have something?
Nope, I'm fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you all
Thanks,
for-
Mindy. Thank you. And
for
I don't know if I'll have a
participating
group or
today.
not, but Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Thank you, everyone.
Take care. God bless everybody.
Email me if you need any answers to questions.
Right. Thanks, Mindy.
Bye-bye. Bye.